it reminds me of the exact stereotype that a lot of Europeans have of Americans, that we're all just cowboys, which honestly is fair.
Hello, and welcome to the Euro What, episode number 153 for the week of April 18th, 2022. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm joined today by Mike McComb. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
And our special guest, Bre Booker. Hey, Bre.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We are a group of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest, and this week we'll be talking about the middle section of this year's second semifinal. Welcome back to the program, Bre.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's so great to be back with you guys.
So how has your Eurovision season been this year?
Oh, it has been so busy. I have fallen head, I won't say head over heels because some of the national finals weren't worthy of that. But my VPN definitely earned its keep. So yeah, it has been very, very busy, but I'm so excited for the competition coming up.
Are you making the trip to Turin this year?
I wish, but unfortunately Airbnbs are just so expensive right now. So yeah, that's the only downfall. But if I could go and just party in the Euro Village, I would totally do it.
Yeah, especially with the way that it sounds like they're having it set up this year, where it's like they've got this giant park for the Euro Village, and then they're spreading out the Euro Club across like 9 or 10 different locations. So it should be pretty hopping in Turin during Eurovision week.
I don't know.
We are continuing our coverage of the second semifinal this week. Our first song today, San Marino. They are sending Achille Lauro and his song, Stripper. So some fun facts about Achille Lauro is he won the initial edition of Una Voce per San Marino, which that was a very fun national final to watch. I'm glad that San Marino tried that out.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It kind of took me back to the first seasons of X Factor and American Idol with those audition processes. So that was fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where there was a lot of figuring out as they were going along.
Right.
Yes. And then Achille Lauro was also at this year's Sanremo Festival in Italy. So just sort of hedging his bets and trying to get to Eurovision any way that he could. From that San Marino performance, the Vatican was not a fan. I clicked through on this link, Mike, and Google translated the response, and it was very funny. We get that he's using Catholic imagery, and like, come on, other people have done it better.
No.
that was like the general tone to me, and that could have just been Google Translate adding its own flavor on top of that.
Yeah, if you're going to be sacrilegious, at least be original about it. Come on.
Come on. This just seems like a great time to bring back our favorite website, famousbirthdays.com, where he is the number one rapper born on July 12th. So like a couple levels of filtering happening there, but he's number one. He's the number 6 rapper born in Italy, 2 spots behind Blanco, who is part of Italy's act this year.
Oh, wow.
So Bre, what is your feeling on this one?
I am of two minds because I love Achille. His presentation is just so audacious, so loud, so out there, but also just with this like cool chicness about him. He is really just selling this package for me. The song is basic. Like the lyrical content is very just kind of like I Love Britney or I can't remember the rest of the lyrics because I'm thinking in Italian and English.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's very simple. So I know that the like kind of glam rock trend is what we expected via the Måneskin effect, but yeah, it's okay for me. It's kind of sitting in the middle for me.
Okay. Mike, how are you feeling about this one?
I appreciate this song's presence and that San Marino's weird process kind of created the pathway for this to be in the conversation. Because if San Marino did a fully internal process, I don't think they would have chosen this.
No.
And I can't, and since there wasn't a public vote element to Una Voce per San Marino, I don't think that would have worked either. So yeah, I'm just very interested in how this is going to do, because it's like, oh, this is just kind of different. And yeah, it'll be a fun little science experiment.
I just like that through like some random set of circumstances, this is now in Eurovision.
Yes, exactly. And Bre, I like that you refer to this as being basic, because I've been doing Italian Duolingo since Måneskin 1. And yeah, like as I was preparing for this episode, it's like, oh, I actually understand some of this song now. It's just like, oh, it's going to be great. It's filling me with a little bit more confidence. So there is that. But yeah, I have no idea how this is going to do at Eurovision, because like Achille, he doesn't really do anything for me, but like the fans are very, very into what he's doing. So
yes.
more for them. So
Yes. Well, I feel like that's where we, like when he won, that's where we both were like, it's just like, okay, like I get why this does something for people, but I'm not one of the people this does something for.
Yes. And I'm happy that they're happy. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Achille because he clearly wants to go to Eurovision. Bre, I just fully agree that he's very good at the visual presentation, but like this song is just it's basic. Listening to the first of the house parties that dropped last week, where he performed another song of his, Rolls Royce, I'm just like, okay, so this is just the type of song he writes, and the type of song he writes is just like he's been locked inside of like a Hard Rock cafe and is just listening to things on the walls.
That would explain his mullet.
It's just like a weird mishmash of like rock and roll and Americana stereotypes.
Yes.
And like it's just a list of them. Like again, it's just very stream of consciousness. It just does nothing for me. I have no clue what the stage presentation is going to go like. I know there's like a very specific quadrant of the internet that's just ready for him to be on stage, but like I have no clue what the larger people tuning into Eurovision are going to make of this.
Yeah, because I mean, I think if it's going to be like the performance that he gave at Una Voce per San Marino, I think that's just going to be kind of boring, particularly considering all of the other bands that are in this year's field. Feels like there is a lot of staging potential for this song, so hopefully San Marino has the budget to realize some of those dreams.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like they're playing this very close to the chest, but yeah, it could also be a case of they don't know what they're doing yet either.
This feels like it has the potential to get mistaken for like an interval act, just because he's very Italian. He feels very much of a piece with Måneskin and sort of, oh, we heard you like Måneskin, so here's like another glam rocker from Italy.
Yeah, that would be the unfortunate comparison. And unless they step up the staging, I hope, honestly, that he's swinging from a pole and singing at the same time. That would step it up for me.
If you're going to call it stripper, we know that he likes performing without a shirt on. Just give him a pole. Let's do that.
It's just a recreation of the sequence from Hustlers, with which really, if that happens, 12 points. You know?
I was about to say like that. I mean, I feel like we should just like get in San Marino's DMs and be like, "Hello, have you considered this?"
Yeah.
You realize that the light shines bright through those who broke inside. I'm not the same. No, I'm not the same. No, I'm not the same. No.
So next up in the lineup is Australia and Sheldon Riley with the song Not the Same. Sheldon won Australia Decides, and that is not the first singing competition that he's appeared on. He did X Factor, he did The Voice, he also did America's Got Talent. I always dread when that pops up in our filter.
Just like every time, it's like, ugh.
It's probably most known for wearing elaborate masks while performing on stage. That was part of his get-up when he was on America's Got Talent. Did not seem to curry Simon Cowell's favor, which is fine. Going back to famous birthdays again, he is the number 2 Sheldon. He is the number 10 Riley. He is the number 5 person born on March 14th. Bre, what do you think of this entry?
Actually, this was my second place from Australia Decides. I was a huge proponent of Voyager's Dreamer. So I am okay with Sheldon representing Australia. I love his voice, and his voice is really what carries this package. But the song, which I understand the sentiment and I understand the story behind it, the song kind of gives that X Factor, that American Idol, that Australia's Got Talent essence. It gives it that vibe. It gives it a very showy vibe instead of a more genuine vibe, even though we know that there's a story behind it. So hopefully with Sasha Jean-Baptiste behind Australia this year, hopefully she can kind of encapsulate what the song is about, because right now it's just like, okay, great. It's a great ballad sung by a guy, but we also have a lot of boys with emotions throughout this year's contest. So yeah, I love the song and I love Sheldon's voice personally, but for me, it's kind of like, it could qualify, it couldn't qualify. I could see it going either way.
So this one is on the bubble for me as well. Like, for similar reasons, that like this very much feels like someone who's been on a lot of X Factors and Idols and Got Talents. It's a song structure that we just kind of know, and like I respect that it's coming from like a very truthful place, but it just feels so self-serious. And the two things that I keep mentally connecting it with is like, A, when the intro to this starts, I get, ooh, it's Poland, and then like, no, it's not Poland. That just tells me that like of the two songs in the semifinal that feel similar to me, I'm leaning towards Achman. But then also vocally and in like the song structure, it's reminding me of like a couple years ago when Lewis Capaldi was like popping up everywhere. But like Lewis Capaldi also had this wonderful self-deprecating presence that I just get the impression Sheldon does not have with the masks and with the seriousness of this. I'm interested to see how they change up the staging from Australia Decides, but like it's just kind of falling flat for me.
I get that. I think back to when we discussed this initially, and my knee-jerk reaction, because I didn't really dig into the story of the song, was that this was more of a queer narrative rather than having to do with being diagnosed with autism. And yeah, just kind of thinking of like my own experience, because I like much like Sheldon, I'm also on the autism spectrum and queer and trying to balance all of that. And like, I get where he's coming from with this. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of stuff that I should be identifying with here. And the overwrought nature makes sense. I mean, like Sheldon's 23 and I remember how frustrating my 20s were, but, yeah, it just kind of is putting me in the mindset of like the It Gets Better campaign, which I don't find is particularly helpful in most cases. And I have to wonder if like 10 years from now, looking back on this, like if even he would be like, ooh, yeah, that was just kind of a lot back then. I don't know how the audience is going to respond to this, because I have a feeling the knee-jerk reaction is also going to be like, oh, this is a queer narrative and not the like extra layer that's in there. There are already many queer narrative identity songs in this semifinal, which is kind of unusual. Like we talked about I Am from Israel last week, and we'll be talking about Romania's entry next week. That's 3 out of the 18 songs in here. I can't imagine all 3 of them are going to advance, and it's possible that none of them will advance. So yeah, there's just a lot to kind of scratch your head about here.
I connect with what it's trying to do. I'm just not sure it's successful or that's going to connect on the night, because yeah, like it just has a lot going on.
Absolutely. Honestly, it gives me theater kid energy. Like, take me seriously, please.
Yeah, and also like kind of going into like the Sia realm with like the wigs and the masks are a lot, and it's an unnecessary obstacle. I think I like it's raising the difficulty bar, but like it's kind of in a self-own sort of way. like it's just like I it's not helping, and I don't see that changing. But yeah, like knowing that Sasha Jean-Baptiste is behind this, it was kind of surprising when she was paired with Switzerland last year. That turned out well for Switzerland, so maybe lightning will strike twice.
Let's hope.
Next in the running order is Cyprus's entry from Andromache, Ayla. Ayla, much like the last few Cypriot entries, is an internal selection. Andromache competed on The Voice of Greece in 2015, and the songwriting team is just full of all sorts of writers. We have Greek, Albanian, Dutch, Swedish, Spanish writers. There's a big writer's room on this, and that includes Alex P., who wrote Fuego and Replay. Andromache is not on Famous Birthdays, but I have to imagine she'd probably be like the number one Andromache if she was.
Maybe number 2, because there was the character from Greek mythology, which was really messing up with my Google searches. So.
Doesn't surprise me that much that it has Alex P., who wrote Fuego and Replay, just because it's just like whoever Panik Records decides to send, basically, from Cyprus. So, of course, it seems like they have a go-to stable of people. But Mike, what did you think? How has this one grown or changed for you?
That is an interesting way to phrase that question, because I don't know if it's necessarily grown for me or not. Like, I liked it when I initially heard it. I think she has a great voice, but I still don't think the song is all that sticky and just kind of floats there. And I'm not really sure what they're going to be able to do to kind of boost it to the front of people's minds. Like, I think staging is going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting here. And it's going to have to be something memorable enough to inspire folks to pick up the phone. And I don't know what they could do that's still going to fit the tone of the song.
I love the song, personally. I think it's a very ethereal, slowed down variation of the Fuegos, the Replays, the El Diablos that we've been getting. And I agree with you, Mike. The difficulty is going to be in the staging, because how do you make something that ethereal and that mid-tempo? How do you make that catch an audience's attention for 3 minutes? Because even with the video, it looked like a lookbook from an editorial. It didn't look like a music video. It didn't present anything. So I too am worried about the staging, but I personally love the song. Hopefully it does well.
Yeah, and like, I also love the song when I'm listening to it, but the second it ends, it just sort of leaves my head. And I'm glad you said ethereal, Bre, because the word I had in mind was airy. Mm-hmm. It's very evocative. It's a great mood. I also like that you called it it is just sort of like a slowed down version of like a Fuego. I feel like we were congratulating Cyprus for not sending like another Fuego / Replay clone, because if they had done that, we would have absolutely called them out on it. So like, good on them for like switching up the tempo, but like, I agree that there's nothing really sticky about this one. So any sort of stage visuals is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting and create something that inspires people like, no, I need to see that again on Saturday.
I think my main takeaway from Cyprus this year is they really need to do another national final sometime in the near future, ideally next year. Because I think their last one was, I want to say 2016. But in the course of doing that national final, a number of the contestants in it ended up being future acts. So I would like them just to kind of like establish a new slate of artists to pull from. But I kind of understand the financial considerations of that as well. Like, I think part of the reason that Panik Records is usually the one picking the artist is because they're fronting the money to get these entries out there. So I hope Cyprus considers a shift in strategy. It doesn't have to be a total shift, but it just feels like they're running out of gas.
I feel like if 2020 had happened, we would have gotten a different flavor of Cyprus. I'm not sure it's a flavor that would have done well, just because the Sandro song was
a lot.
And like, it doesn't surprise me that Cyprus sort of went immediately back into going with what worked for them when the contest returned. We're noticing a pattern. You can change up the tempo, but we're still being like, oh, but it's like the same 6 people writing the song. I like this one when I'm hearing it, but like, outside of those 3 minutes, it just does not stick in my brain or in my rankings.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another thing that I noticed, I happened to be in Greece when they announced both Cyprus and the Greek entry. The Greek entry is my personal winner currently. But I did notice that they were pouring so much time into both entries, and they were like on all of the morning talk shows, all of the afternoon news shows. And I was just wondering, I was like, well, how can Cyprus really generate their own homegrown talent pool if they're just relying on Greece and also sharing the publicity? And I wonder if that's going to continue to help them due to the geopolitical voting, but I'm not sure for the artist output it's in the long run, I don't think it will help. Hopefully Cyprus can create their own national final, like you said, and kind of give us something from Cyprus.
It's interesting this year because Greece and Cyprus are in the two separate semifinals, so I think they don't necessarily have the Greek vote. If they get to Saturday, I absolutely see Greece giving this one a lot of points because that's what Greece and Cyprus do. That's just a bingo square. Yeah. Greece gives Cyprus 12 points. Cyprus gives Greece 12 points. Done. But
Commence booing.
Yes. That's why we joke about the booing. But they're in separate semifinals this year, so they can't necessarily rely on those dedicated points. So I think, particularly for Cyprus, it's going to be tricky. On the other hand, like, this semifinal is kind of all over the place, and I think, like, I've done a few rounds of ranking things just to see where I'm at, and, like, this one is on the bubble for me. The bubble in semifinal 2 could just go any way.
Everyone's on the bubble, except for Sweden.
Yeah, and like, this is really one of the more upbeat songs in the semifinal, even though it is kind of a very neutral, like, relaxing tone, like, on the whole, like, it's just like, oh yeah, this is more in bop territory than some of the other entries.
Yeah, I have, like, the results of, like, the last ranking I did in another tab, and I just took a look and, like, okay, so, like, the last time I did it, they were in the green, but, like, in other times they've been in the red in terms of what's qualifying versus non-qualifying. So again, this is one where I feel like anything can happen.
Stupid, that's rich. When it's coming from you, and that's rich. Well, I got nothing to prove, that's rich. You think I dressed up for you, and that's rich. Bye bye, fool. Bye bye, fool.
Next in the lineup is Ireland, and That's Rich by Brooke. Brooke finished third on The Voice UK in 2020 and was coached by Megan Trainor. Brooke won Eurosong, which is the selection process that is used on the Late Late Show. Ireland finally brought that back after doing a few years of internal selections with very poor results. She won the public vote at Eurosong. The jury, on the other hand, was not a fan, and I don't know if they were purposely trying to tank her or are just, I don't know, oblivious to what Eurovision is like nowadays. But it led to a very awkward conclusion where they were asking the jury for advice, and they're just like, come back to us. We need to rethink this. On Famous Birthdays, our favorite website, she is the number 7 Aries named Brooke. Can anybody name the other 6?
I've clicked through and nope, it's just all influencers and YouTube people. I have liked this one since it won. I'm mostly just wanting Ireland to not get in its own way because they have been blessed by being put in the second semifinal with this one, and they could get through to the final after a long time of not qualifying. On the other hand, I feel like they're still using the same staging from the Late Show, and I'm getting real concerned about it. My vision for this one is I want the performance to just be sort of like what you imagine as like a stereotypical rich person styling-wise. I want the performance to feel new money expensive, and I'm not sure Ireland is going to do that, especially after going super complicated last year and having that kind of blow up in their face.
Bre, what do you think of this one?
I agree completely with Ben. I have been telling my husband that whenever I hear the song, every time I just think, ironically, that's rich, even though the presentation thus far has been very cheap. And that's no slight against Brooke, because Brooke has honestly been selling it. Like, her personality has been shining through, and she's been the one pushing the fun energy of the song. But like Ben said, they have to step it up. That's rich. Like, I know that it's a play on words, but if they're trying to be literal, since Brooke has the money gun already, they need to have like a designer level looking presentation. But the song in itself, it's fun. I do feel that Megan Trainor mentor influence from her, from what I like to call annoyance pop.
Yes.
That I'm blowing raspberries at boys and na boo boo, you can't have me. That kind of pop. She's selling it very well. It's a really fun song. But yeah, they have to have some and I don't want to curse, but they have to have some, they have to step their, what Latvia likes to eat because their veggies up.
Okay, good. I've been sitting here also trying to not say they need to step their salad up. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like, typically not into this particular vein of pop, but it sells the brattiness better than Meghan Trainor's music generally does for me. And I like the vibe. Like, and there is a trend in pop right now that is sort of playing on that, and I think it's really tapping into the moment, which good for Ireland. I feel like they have not been on the same page in a lot of years, and it sounds like they didn't want to be this year either. Like, the fact that this happened is sort of despite their jury.
I agree with what both of you are saying, and particularly with the staging choreography. Yesterday was the Madrid pre-party, and it was the exact same choreography as what Brooke was doing a couple months ago. And I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense just because you don't know what size stage these pre-parties are going to be. So having something that is in a confined space, it's okay, yeah, that is a good plan B to work with. However, I find the choreography kind of claustrophobic. It just feels very, very tight, and that it was originally designed to take place in an elevator. And I'm really hoping that once they are on the Eurovision stage, they use that space or something, just make it less tight. I think the thing that I find interesting about Brooke is how much trouble seems to just kind of follow her throughout this
yes.
preseason process.
Yes.
I think it was going to the Barcelona pre-party. She lost her passport and was posting videos on Instagram while she was in passport control.
Showing passport control, the video.
Yeah. So it's you're hearing That's Rich on on her iPhone as they're looking at it very sternly. And it's just yeah, that's the right vibe. But yeah, and then she got into a scrape with the Roop over the weekend. She's going to be performing at a gay bar in Ireland called Kremlin, which is ironically named, but the Roop didn't know that.
Kremlin is just she's pro-Russia.
Yeah, and she's not. The bar is took that name as a protest against Russia's LGBT policies. And yeah, so I'm very eager to see what her Turin experience is going to be like, because I think she also has the potential to be the bestie among the contestants. There always seems to be a contestant each year who's oh, they're going to be best friends with everybody, and they're probably going to latch onto someone specifically. I'm thinking of back in 2016, Sonia from Serbia and Hovi from Israel just being absolute BFFs from the jump. And I can see Brooke and Sheldon getting together and just causing all sorts of chaos. And
yes.
I'm really hopeful that's going to happen. So.
Just given her string of luck, I'm just delighted to see what kind of chaos Brooke creates in Turin.
Oh, and her and Brunella. Oh, man.
Get those two together. 2 a.m. in the club.
Ranella is such a party. I've loved seeing her and Chanel and WRS. I've loved seeing their blossoming friendship, too. So, yeah, Turin's going to be a party.
The other friendship I have loved seeing is the Chanel subwoofer.
Yes.
I forget whether it's Jim or Keith that can do the full slow-mo dance really well, but it's just, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, so do we think Ireland's going to qualify?
In the second semi, yes.
It's right in the solid contention area for me. Assuming they don't completely step on their feet and Brooke doesn't do something to completely curse the arena. Mm-hmm. Which, again, we have seen trouble seems to follow her. But this feels like the strongest Irish entry in years, and I feel like I said that last year before I saw the complicated staging. Mm-hmm. But they're on the right track with what they're sending lately, and I would love for them to get back in the game with this one, if only to continue encouraging Ireland to look at what's working in the moment instead of what they think Eurovision is.
You don't wanna test my limits, but something tells me you're not listening. Probably you're going crazy. It's all you've been doing lately. You don't wanna test my limits. I gave you up, but you're not listening. Can you stop calling me baby? I made up my mind already. We're running in circles.
Directly following Brooke is North Macedonia's entry this year, Andrea and Circles. She was the winner of Za Eurosong 2022, North Macedonia's online selection this year. She developed her love for music while living in New York and cites Lauryn Hill and Hayley Williams as influences. She is not on famous birthdays, which, fair, I feel like there are a lot of people with that name.
Yeah, she is very difficult to Google.
Yes. Yeah, she is, this is not a Googleable name. Bre, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm not a fan. the song is very dated to me. It has a very early 2000s kind of basic drum beat, and the lyrics are basic poetry that like you would write after your first heartbreak or your first difficult relationship. It's forgettable to me personally, and it's unfortunate because Andrea seems really cool. So yeah, North Macedonia, I don't know what they're doing. I was a fan of Vassal's first entry in 2020, but the 2021 one I wasn't a fan of. And then they had Tamara in 2019. So I don't know what North Macedonia is doing, but yeah, I'm not a fan of this pattern.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm sitting with this one because it really does feel like it's a continuation of what Vassal was doing last year, where it's a very meandering song, but it's very heartfelt. So like, I don't want to be too harsh on it, just because it's just like, oh no, this is their baby. Reading that she cites Lauryn Hill and Hayley Williams as influences, I can absolutely hear that in this track. Like in the second verse, it's very reminiscent. I was trying to figure out which track from Miseducation of Lauryn Hill it was reminding me of. There's just like this one interval where it's like, oh, that is the same pacing as like one line from something that's in the back half of the album, but I can't pull it at the moment. But I agree. Like lyrically, it's not the most interesting. I think the revamp did a good job of fixing some of the early problems, but I don't think it fixed all of the problems. Like I think the lyrics are the lyrics, and that's where we're at. Although I do love the way she just screams out crazy at the like right before the end of the song. So I'm hoping that leads to some very awesome memes as we get into the depths of Eurovision season. So
I like her as a performer. I like her energy. You picked up on the Lauryn Hill and me seeing the Hayley Williams. Like I totally see the Paramore in how this song is constructed. But it's also just really one note, and that note is anger. And it's like, it's appropriate. It's called Circles because it kind of just wanders around the same kind of loop over and over. It doesn't go anywhere memorable. And like, I could see her giving like a very dynamic performance of this, but still like, I'm not expecting a lot from the staging, especially because this one's like right in the thick of the lineup. I'm just wondering like what it needs to do to be sticky at all. And I'm not sure that North Macedonia necessarily wants to.
Yeah, stickiness is just not their strong suit.
No.
So,
No, and like I liked what they did with Tamara and Proud, and then Vassal was not for me, but I respected what he was doing. Although last year's song was just kind of a lot, just like going in a lot of different directions and not really kind of focused. And this is kind of in a similar place as we've discussed.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a more toned down version of Armenia's 2019 entry, Walking Out by Sir Book.
yeah.
It's very like low key and kind of low scale like that, but it has that same like anger or that angry energy to it. So maybe they could give it a bunch of steam and kind of a little bit of pyro like they kind of did with that performance, even though that didn't qualify. But, and you know, maybe that could zhuzh it up just a little bit. But yeah, sorry, North Macedonia.
Yeah, it feels like it's one or two drafts away from being like the final song, but this is what they've submitted.
That's exactly it. It feels incomplete.
Yeah, somebody needs to come in and go, okay, so like, this is some great emotion here. How can we push this further?
I wonder if North Macedonia does the songwriting camps. I feel like the artists that they pick interesting people. I just think they need a little bit more help in the actual songwriting department.
It feels like they're kind of lacking in the songwriting side of things. On the other hand, I don't want them to like immediately just go talk to Sweden and be like, hi, we need a song. I feel like that's the go-to reaction for nations. It's like, oh, okay, we're picking dynamic performers, but we need better material. Okay, hi, Sweden. What didn't make Melfest this year? And that's not what I want.
No.
What would Andrea's version of I Am What I Am be?
Ooh, now there's a polar opposite for you.
Right.
Any other thoughts on North Macedonia?
Oh, no. I think we've dragged it enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sing your heart out, boy, for all the people great and slow. Oh, when all else is lost, the future still remains our own.
All right, closing out this section of the second semifinal is Estonia's STEFAN and his song Hope. STEFAN won Istilal, and this was his fourth appearance in the competition. He reached the superfinal in his first two attempts. So, pretty good track record, all things considered. Like his predecessor, Uku Saviste, he was named Sexiest Man of the Year by an Estonian magazine. He is not on famous birthdays, but he did win the first season of Estonia's version of The Masked Singer as Aries, which is kind of funny because he is a Capricorn.
I'm wondering if I'm just sort of hitting burnout on country at both Eurovision and the American Song Contest, because like this one is just kind of doing nothing for me. Like it's nice and it's there, and I have friends online who have done their rankings of all the Eurovision entries this year, even though they're not necessarily Eurovision people, and a couple of them have this in like their top 10.
Okay.
Interesting.
I get it. He is attractive, but the song is just there. Like it's kind of doing like I like that we're getting spaghetti western when Italy is hosting. When I listen to country, I tend to look for like the more folky alt country stuff, or like what Orville Peck is doing right now. And this is just fine. It's there.
Now, when you say the top 10 for the semifinal or top 10 overall?
I think top 10, like they're just sort of listening to everything. They're not really paying attention to what semifinals are. So they're just taking like all 40 songs.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to tip my hand. Bre, what do you think of this one?
I'm with Ben on this one. It's okay. We've heard it before. And again, the spaghetti western, I was actually going to bring that up because it reminds me of the exact stereotype that a lot of Europeans have of Americans, that we're all just cowboys, which honestly is fair. I get it. It really doesn't move me, I guess, because we've heard it before and we've heard so many variations of it. However, I will say that the production on it is very clean, and it's a very, very sharp production. Like, musically, it sounds great, but it's a genre that I'm over. So it might qualify. I mean, thankfully it is in the second semifinal, which seems to be working in the favor of a lot of entries in this semifinal. But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I find this one so incredibly dull, and I think it is just because like we've seen this before from Estonia for like the last several years. Like not just songs that qualified. Like I'm thinking of like Victor Crone, but like just the Istilal lineup, it was a lot of this. And like, I just think the lyrics are word salad. The instrumentation is Avicii cosplay. Like it's just so middle of the road, but middle of the road in the semifinals still puts you in 9th or 10th place. So like that could be good enough. And middle of the road in the grand final, like if this finished in 15th place, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I mean, it's a problem for me because it's like, couldn't we do something else? This is pH 7. This is pure water. Like, this is the beige that you paint your apartment when you are moving out.
True neutral on the D&D alignment chart. It's just,
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I had not thought about the fact that like Estonia just seems to be in this kind of mood just because like Victor Crone. Yeah, just Victor Crone. Crone. This sounds like Heroes kind of is. Yeah, and like it's Avicii core. It's doing nothing.
Come on, Estonia, give us nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like Estonia needs to like find some new talent, but it is a very small country. So the 40 artists that they had this year, it's like, well, these are our 40 artists. What do you want us to do? We have to shuffle them up in like how many different ways? So
let Yuri Pootsman win again. He keeps sending interesting stuff.
Yeah, that is true.
Stop trying to be a cowboy, Estonia.
All right. Any other thoughts on Estonia, or are we done dragging that as well?
It's dusty. It's as dusty as the video. So yeah, I think we're done.
This is a really weird set for me. Like, I'm not really enthusiastic about any of these. Like, there are still highs and lows, but I would not be all that surprised if none of these advanced. But yeah, that is mathematically possible for that.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, like this is like a weirdly baggy middle section of the semifinal, and admittedly, the semifinal is chaos. So again, anything can happen. So many of these are on the bubble for me. Of these, I think the one I feel strongest about is I would like Brooke to go through.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like, I would say Brooke. Cyprus, I think I would like that to go through. Just be like, That's nice.
Yeah.
But like, if it doesn't make it through, I don't think I'll be all that heartbroken.
I feel like with all of these in this section, like I feel like my general reaction is like, I can see like a clear path for them going through. I can also see a clear path for them not qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it honestly all depends on staging for each entry. It could make or break them.
I think that is the good thing about this set, is there is a lot of interesting staging potential for most of these songs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note,
Yeah. Well, Bre, thank you so much for joining us again and chatting about the entries.
Thank you all for having me. It's always fun chatting with you guys.
Thank you so much. Is there anywhere that you would like to point our listeners to?
Sure. Yeah, you can follow me at She's So Offbeat. I'm pretty sure that Mike and Ben will put that in the show notes. But yeah, you can follow me there and we can make some Shade Queen comments together about Eurovision. I'm all for it.
Excellent. So aside from these 6 entries we discussed today, anybody else that you are rooting for?
I am actively rooting for Greece. However, I do think if Greece doesn't win, it's going to be a sad girl season anyway. So it'll either be Sweden or the Netherlands right behind. So those are my top 3 that I still can't really decide who I want to win. But Greece is the front runner.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, it is definitely one of those years where it's just like, well, it's raining today, so this one's going to be the one I want to win.
Yes.
Exactly. I'm like, how sad am I today? I think Netherlands sad. I think I need some Deduca.
Netherlands sad or Sweden sad? All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Euro What. Thanks for listening. The Euro What podcast is hosted by Ben Smith, that's me, and Mike McComb.
That's me. You can follow The Euro What on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcast app of your choice. Show notes and links to our Eurovision 2022 review series are in the description of this episode and on our website at eurowhat.com.
Over on our Patreon, we're just asking questions in our bonus podcast about the American Song Contest. Check it out at patreon.com/EuroWhat. If you'd like to ask us questions, we're at EuroWhat on Twitter.
Next time on The Euro What, Ned Raggett returns to finish out our coverage of Eurovision's second semifinal.